Natalie Merchant is here for over 12 years. She was the lead singer of the successful band 10,000 Maniacs. In 1993, at the height of their success, she left the band to start her own solo career. Her first album, Tiger Lily, sold over 4 million copies. She has just released her second album called Ophelia to critical rave reviews. She joins me now for a conversation and later a performance, and I am pleased to have her here for both. Welcome back.
Good evening, Mr. Rose.
Oh, good evening, Ms. Merchant. How are you?
I'm well.
Last time you were here, we talked about you with Bob Thurman.
Talked
about Tibet, did we? Anything happening there? Is it getting any better at all? Do you have any optimism?
Well, as far as I actually met the Dalai Lama. I met His
He was
Holiness.
here about a month ago, right?
Yes, I met him at the opening ceremony of Tibet House. We finally, after all the concerts and other fundraising events, we were able to purchase a space, a permanent home for Tibet House, and he blessed the temple there and gave a speech, and all the board members had a chance to speak with him, and his assessment is, that if Tibet doesn't receive its autonomy within 20 years, it's a frightening situation because of the loss of culture. That's his concern.
Another 20 years of this kind of oppression, and there'll be
the loss of another generation,
eradication.
not being able to speak their language, not being able to practice their religion, and losing their customs.
You had an interesting life. I mean, you were friends of our friends, people like Philip Glass, and you knew Allen Ginsberg. And,
Right.
I mean, you've been very interesting in terms of, you may be the only person who's involved in Lilith Fair who's had that kind of experience.
I don't know. Different artists have
Yeah.
different backgrounds, histories.
Tell me about this album. Ophelia, look at this cover. Yeah, exactly.
seen
What
that
is that
somewhere.
saying? What is that saying?
Well, flip it over, and what is that
What
saying?
is that saying?
And then
Well, okay. What is this saying?
we'll open it up and see what that's saying.
Aha.
Yeah, there's all different characters.
This is all the, oh, look, so
Yeah.
here we go. See that?
The title
it-
track is Ophelia, and in the lyrics of the song, each verse reveals a different
Ophelia.
woman of a different era and a totally different personality, and
Which one is more you?
I think there's a little of all of those.
All of
women.
these, huh? Really? The range of from this to this
Yeah,
to
the
this
suffragette.
to this, which is a victim of abuse or something, or
No, she's
just
just
somebody who's.
a bit lost at the moment. She'll come back though.
This is a what?
She's very proud of her gold medallion. She's she's an athlete.
Tiger Lily, you did it all.
Production. And,
Yeah, you produced it. You wrote all the songs. You single-handedly went out and promoted the heck of it, right? How
And I
about?
funded it too.
That's what I mean. Funded it from your own cash.
And it was distributed by Elektra. I had a lot of help from a major label.
Now, what about this? Is this different for you?
The major difference with this album is I took the advance from the company. I didn't finance it myself.
You didn't take risk money from your own pocket.
No, it didn't seem necessary because I'd proven myself with this, and I was considered not a risk. So, not that I was considered a risk before, because the 10,000 Maniacs had been successful, but I like the autonomy. I like being able to be in the studio and not be answerable to anyone because I've funded it myself. But I did take the advance. But that's not important. That's just a technicality. The important thing is that with this album, I invited about 33 musicians to be involved in it, and many of them I had met since I left 10,000 Maniacs, and I was so taken by what they did as individuals that I wanted to collaborate with them. And there's a broad range of people. There's Gavin Bryars, the English composer. There's Young Chun Lamo, it's a Tibetan devotional singer. Don and Karen Paris from the Innocence Mission. Lokua Kanza, who is a guitar player from Zaire. And the list goes on and on.
What's the album about? What do these songs say?
Well, there's no central theme or thread of continuity between the songs other than I wrote them. I'll have to say that I had a certain group of people in mind when I wrote the album, and they were a lot of the young people in the country, in America, and just kind of wondering what I would say to them if I had a chance to speak to them. And I think I spoke to them in several of the songs.
And what is it you want to say to them?
Well, I wanted to express my empathy and my understanding for that life is confusing and the influences that may affect their lives can be contradictory, and that there's a lot of cruelty and in the world, but they have to, rather than respond in kind to that cruelty with more cruelty, to just respond with patience and perseverance and work toward a more just and humane world. And I didn't get all didactic with the kids. It was more, especially with the song "Break Your Heart." It's just that I know the people will disappoint you, but don't be a disappointment to us. You know.
It always happens. Here's some of the titles: Ophelia, Life is Sweet, Kind and Generous, Frozen Charlotte, My Skin, Break Your Heart, Ring of May, Thick as Thieves, Effigy, The Living, When They Ring the Golden Bells, and Ophelia again. How is it different from this, in your mind?
Let me see what was on that record. I can't even remember now.
You wrote these songs.
It's a long time ago. This is ancient history for me. Well, the main difference...
I bet you whenever you go out, you have to play those songs.
We're actually in rehearsals right now, so I'm determining which of these songs and which of those songs. Right. No, I think that there's some similarities. I think I drew from a larger group of songs for this album. I was more selective. I was so anxious to get this out. I'd left 10,000 Maniacs, and I just wanted to put something out.
Do well in the first solo effort.
I just wanted to put anything out. I didn't want a long period of time in anticipation. Oh, she's been doing it, writing for 4 years. What'll it be? Those were the first 10 songs I wrote after I left the band, and I just put them on a record.
You just said, I'm going to decide now what's going to be included on the sort of playlist for a tour, right? For this summer's tour.
Right.
You decide everything. I mean, you really are in charge.
Of course. I am Natalie Merchant Incorporated.
Yeah.
I am the president of the board,
the
CEO.
chairman of the board and CEO.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you are, because creative control is essential to you.
For me,
yeah,
it is, and I've made a lot of sacrifices. I mean, a lot of things I could have done in my career that would have given me greater exposure or more money. But I just said it's not right for me. And I've always maintained control of my publishing, so you'll never see one of my songs on a commercial advertising sneakers or cars or anything like that.
You would not allow that to happen.
No. And I'm making stipulations in my will that it won't happen when I'm dead, or you'll hear me turning in the grave.
Nobody can go buy a song
because
to use in a
I
commercial.
own my own publishing.
How come you got so smart about this?
Michael Stipe told me.
Is that right?
He said, your publishing is your virginity, don't ever give it away. And I didn't know if that was the best advice as an analogy, but, it struck me as a really good idea. Don't give it away. Don't. Yeah. Because most people who do publishing deals do that, they kind of gamble that they won't be successful, because you give a percentage of your royalties away, and also you give a large percentage of control away. Unless you stipulate that you have to have written consent for every use.
All of that comes from a learned kind of thing.
I've been in the business for 17 years.
For a while. I know, I've learned. I hear from Michael and others. You tell me. So John Landau, he knows something too. So you hear, how much of this though goes back to, the stories of you as a kid, single mother. Your mother having to really work hard, but in terms of to make.
She's a single working mother.
Yeah, single working mother.
Which I think a lot of people in my generation, a lot of women in my generation grew up with that influence.
Right. And it influences you how? To
be independent.
Right.
And self-reliant.
To look out for yourself and be self-reliant. Yeah. And don't depend on somebody coming along to help you. Depend on making it your own creative control.
But my mother was vulnerable too. She wasn't just the fierce warrior.
Yeah.
Goddess or anything like that, but she was very I always assumed that I would grow up and I would have a job. I never assumed that I would grow up and marry, and that would be it for me as far as the outside world was concerned.
Would you like to do that?
Retreat?
No, marry and have a reasonably traditional part of you.
I'm too much of a radical to believe in marriage.
Radical politically?
Yes, and socially. I just don't want to have my the affairs of my private life sanctioned by the state or by organized religion. It's just I know my feelings. And I think to me a marriage bond would be if I had a child with someone. That would be a life commitment. I would be committing myself to be involved with this person for the rest of my life.
Children important to you?
Oh, yes.
Yes? I mean, having them yourself?
Having them myself isn't as important as just children in general. If I am capable of having a child, I'd love to have one, or two.
2 or 3.
But I've always envisioned, like, for me, the long-range plan is to work with disadvantaged children, whether handicapped or financially disadvantaged or troubled kids. I've always when I was in school, I worked as a volunteer in a summer camp. It was back in the golden era of when money was available for projects like this. But we had a summer arts camp for handicapped children, and I decided that I wanted to work with handicapped children at that point. And for me to buy a large piece of land and build a camp for children, something like that, when this show business thing is over.
When you might think it might be over?
10 years.
You could do this. 10 years?
8 years.
You're in your mid-30s now, so 10 years, you could say,
Maybe
do
less.
something else. Can you imagine what you would do if you weren't writing and singing?
I think I'll always write and sing, but I don't necessarily have to release records that are multi-platinum and go on world tours. That's not as important to me as having my time at the piano every week.
Just if you knew what we've already talked about, and that's all you knew, it's inevitable that you would have left 10,000 Maniacs, just knowing you that much.
So you're asking me?
Yeah. It was inevitable that you were going to leave.
Yeah.
I mean, you just based on what we know already about you at this table.
Oh yeah, eventually, someday.
You were going to leave.
And they knew that too.
Because they knew their girl, their lady, their woman, their person, whatever.
No, it was discussed in depth before. 2 years before I left, I told them, had a serious meeting with them and just said, my goals and expectations are this, and I want to be able to, my main thing was I wanted to write my own songs.
Yeah.
And I felt like the rest of the band was like a censor board, I always had to, because they wanted to write songs too. So I always knew I wanted to write my own material, and so I couldn't stay in a band for
You had
it.
to be solo for that.
Yeah.
This is from the film Ophelia, a clip in which you play multiple characters.
Right.
Here it is. Roll tape.
This was like a fantasy to do this film. I've always wanted to write a script, and it's always been like a secret idea of mine to lip sync in different languages and have subtitles. And it was to reach out to the European audience. That was one of the ideas I had, and also to create some mystique. And I used to listen to concept records when I was a teenager, and all I had was the package and the record, and it would really intrigue me, and I'd want to enter the world of this musician that they had created for me, someone like David Bowie. And that was kind of was in the back of my mind when I made the film.
Do you find more role models to what you want to be among male musicians and female musicians?
No, not necessarily. I mean, one of the most admirable musicians, singer-songwriters that I look up to is Joni Mitchell.
And how about among men?
Peter Gabriel, probably.
These are all very politically conscious people.
And English-speaking, a lot of the artists that I've loved throughout time speak other languages. I don't know exactly what they're saying to me, but I just love the passion in their voices. Well, I listen to a lot of West and East African pop music, and I don't speak French, so I usually don't know what they're saying to me.
But how about people like Bob Marley?
Bob Marley had a very powerful impact on me. He was like, and probably the experience of most people in America is like the first voice from the third world that was discussing oppression and rebellion. I'd never heard anyone from, I lived in a small landlocked town, farming
Jamestown,
community.
New York?
In Westfield.
Yeah,
near Jamestown. And no one ever was in my sphere of influence, physical sphere of influence that was from the third world. And then I remember going to somebody's house one summer day and then handing me a Bob Marley record, and I was hearing, you know, burning and a looting tonight. I was like, wait, something's happening somewhere in the world that I need to know about. You know, get up, stand up. And then I heard stories of people like attacking reggae artists, coming to their homes and shooting into their windows late at night, some kidnappings, a lot of repressive acts against them. And I didn't know about those things. And it made me look into them.
Has anybody ever told you look a little bit like Geraldine Chaplin?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not the first person to tell you that, am I?
No, my mother used to tell me that.
Really? Is she still alive?
My mother? Yeah.
Yes. You close to her?
Yeah, we're close. I mean, we're not physically close. She lives down south.
Yeah. Where?
South Carolina.
Oh, that's right. I knew that. So where is it all going? I mean, immediately you're going to go off on this little fair tour for the summer. That's always a big deal, the hottest tour in the summer. It was last summer.
Yeah, we're getting, the tickets are selling extremely well. Yeah.
But beyond that, I mean, what's this about for you?
I have secret long-range plans for the
we'd
next.
Like for you to disclose them this evening.
No, not at national television. I'm sorry.
We would like to know what it is that
sorry, Mr. Rose, that cannot be done.
What stories lurk inside the heart, the beating heart?
But I'll just give you one clue.
Natalie Merchant.
We have multimedia plans for the next record.
Multimedia. Well, just give me 2 clues.
No, I can't do that.
I mean, so well, just hint. You're going to put it on the internet? Is that simple, or what?
No. No, it'll involve the theatrical arts, and it's another like this record under here. Ophelia was a sort of a dream come true as far as collaborations with musicians. But I feel like I made some great connections, especially with someone like Carl Berger, who did the string arrangements, and I'm already starting to write songs for the next project, and I'm going to circumnavigate your question.
I know you're sort of pulling away as fast as you can.
And then I'm going to go off that way.
All right. What are you going to perform for Little Old Me?
I was thinking of doing The Living.
Great.
It lends itself really well to the piano voice.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me. It was a privilege.
My pleasure. My thanks to Natalie Merchant. She will be performing. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you tomorrow night.
What's it like there outside with the living, with the living? From a fallen down place I can hide from the living, from the living. Oh, I don't get to stay. My closest friend, my worst enemy. Oh, afraid that I walked a fine line, squandered it all, and wasted my time, and I don't stand a chance among the living. No, I don't think I'll remain with the living. What a lovers I gambled and lost, count my mistakes, whatever the cost. I'll go off, I'll make myself scarce. Ooh, come tomorrow, you won't find me 'cause I don't care to stay among the living. I don't think I will remain with the living. And I don't care to stay among the living. I don't think I'll remain with